We recently watched the trial of Matthew Pahl together, which happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin. It started on October 27th of 2025, and by November 4th, he was convicted on all counts, which was first-degree intentional homicide and hiding a corpse. Now, this was a very difficult case for the state to prove because the medical examiner was not able to determine the victim's cause of death due to severe decomposition. So can you imagine how important the digital forensic data was? And today I have the honor of bringing to you the digital forensics expert that testified not only in this trial, the Matthew Pahl trial, but another one we also watched together, which was the Jessy Kurczewski trial. So I'm so excited, and I'm not going to waste time any longer. I'm going to just tell you two things. Number one, there's a full recap video of this case for those of you who completely missed the trial, because I think you might want to watch that just so that you can, gather what happened in this case, what it's all about, and just how important this evidence was. And then, number two, I'm linking the playlist for you as well, for this trial and for the Jessy Kurczewski one. Each day is time-stamped for you. You can check the pinned comments and the description box for each day, and you can easily just skip to whichever witness you want to watch. I also had the honor of interviewing the K9 handler, Deputy Willis, and K9 cadaver dog Raven, who joined him in the interview. So if you haven't seen that yet, I hope you'll check it out after this. It's all on the Matthew Pahl trial playlist. Okay, so let me introduce to you Detective Schroeder. Welcome to Grizzly True Crime. Thank you so much for being here and allowing me the opportunity to interview you. Could you tell us just a little bit about who you are and what line of work you're in?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is David Schroeder. I am a detective with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Office. Been there since 2014. Started as a deputy on the road. Had at that point had no idea that it would lead me to where I am today. But just lifelong wanted to be a cop. So I got into that line of work. I worked the road. I was a field training officer. So I was training other deputies. Got assigned to our crash reconstruction unit. So I started working fatal or great bodily harm crashes. Ultimately got promoted to detective in December of 2019. And shortly thereafter, my boss came to me and had said, "You like video games, right?" "Yeah, I play video games, sure. Have you ever thought about being in our lab?" And I was like, never really crossed my mind. I just got promoted. But he said, "Well, we'd like you to go back there part-time." So I had agreed to it on a part-time basis, of course. And about 2 weeks later, Detective Fredericks, who I think you guys had met, he was in our lab. He opted out. He didn't want to be in there anymore. So I came in on I think it was a Tuesday, and they said, "Hey, pack your desk up. You're going to the lab full time." Whoa, all right. So I went back there. At the time, my partner was great, taught me a ton. All my training that I have for this has been on the job. So I had no previous knowledge coming into our lab about digital forensics or anything like that. Started going to several courses. I mentioned it in my testimony, but we use the National Computer Forensics Institute down in Alabama. So Secret Service offers that. I've put in a lot of time down there and paid for a lot of other courses that have got me certifications and led me to where I am now. And I fell in love with it. I mean, it's one of the few topics in law enforcement, I feel like, where there's not really a lot of, we're not creating anything. We're not doing anything special. We're just capturing that data and now we're analyzing it. And I get a lot of questions of, why don't you leave and go work for defense? I love what I do. And you could really look at it as I am working for defense while I'm doing what I do. Because this data is there and it can exonerate people just as much as it can implicate them. And there's been times where I've called attorneys and said, oh, this one's not a very good case. Like we shouldn't use the phone here, or we shouldn't, this doesn't look good. Right. I don't think they did it. So I take a lot of pride in being fair and impartial, and just the data is what it is. I'll report facts, and it's for other people to interpret what we do. So that's where I am today. I like teaching what I do. So thanks for having me and letting me, I guess, talk about what I do. But yeah, that's where I am.
Yes, and how did you find Grizzly True Crime if you have found us on YouTube? And the Grizzly is my community.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's any secret, but a lot of us like to watch the trials, whether it be to go back and watch our own testimony or watch everybody testify. Myself personally, I do like to watch myself testify and learn from it. Just always trying to be better. But your trial specifically, or your channel, day one of the Matthew Pahl trial, I received several screenshots of a comment on your channel. I don't remember who wrote it, but it was something about can't wait for Detective David Schroeder to testify, ... digital forensics. And I was like, everyone was like, dude, you got a stalker. Like they know you. So of course they said, hey, I can't watch it now, but send me that, because I thought it was Photoshop. I didn't. I'm like, somebody's messing with me. But no. So more kept coming in. Like, dude, I saw this comment on her channel. So I had them send me a link, and then after the fact, once the trial ended and I was able to watch testimony, I went right to your channel. And for me, do the pauses and stuff in your channel bother me? No. I prefer the third party stance and input on what we're doing. So I have a dream of being in a jury room and listening to normal people deliberate. And I'll never get that opportunity. Most likely will never have that opportunity to be on a jury or hear people deliberate. So going to a channel like yours is where I get that feedback from the public about what we're doing, for good or bad. I mean, if there's bad comments in there, I'll read them as well. Just to hear what people think about what we're doing. What did we do good? What did we do bad? And learn from it. I mean, every case is different, but hearing what people have to say means a lot to me. And we put a lot of time and effort into this one specifically. So it seemed like we had a lot of positive feedback about what we did, which is good. I mean, our work paid off. But yeah, so I don't mind watching your channel. And if we're ever here again, I'm sure I'll watch your channel again.
Thank you so much. We're so honored to have you. We consider you an honorary Grizzly as part of this community. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I have some questions prepared about the work that you did. And with everyone that watched the Matthew Pahl trial, or if they watched my recap video, there's a couple of questions that I want to touch on there as well. But starting with your line of work, when you receive a device like a smartphone in any investigation, what's the initial step that you take to ensure that you can extract the data without compromising it? And why is that crucial?
Yeah, great question. We take in, I guess, just to give a little background on our lab. There's 2 of us that work in there full time. And on any given year, we average probably about 500 devices coming through. So it's a large amount of devices coming through. But the first thing we need to do is that preservation, right? Whether that be extracting the data and holding on to it, or it might be a manual review if we can't get the data off the device. But the first thing we need to do is to preserve that evidence. And we try to preserve it in its current state. However we took it in is how we want to preserve that. We deal with a lot of people that delete stuff, along with the users deleting things. The phone itself is deleting things as time goes on, right? So certain log files might only keep something for 30 days. And we don't always know where we're at in those 30 days. So for us, it's to expedite getting the data off that device. Whether it be maybe a warrant needs to be drafted, we're pressing harder and harder to move as quickly as we can to acquire that data and preserve it, lock it into that state that we took it in, so that we can analyze the data as close to, I don't want to say perfect, but as close to the normal state as we could. So it's really becoming down to like a speed. How fast can we get to these devices? How quickly can we extract the data from them and preserve that evidence in a state that once we have it, I mean, I could look at it that day. I could look at it months from now. In the Matthew Pahl trial, I looked at it for years. So it just depends, but having that and collecting that data is what's important to us.
Oh man, for years. So that's my next question. How long does a typical digital forensics analysis take from extraction to the full report? And what factors can make it drag on for weeks or even months, or as you say, years?
This is a classic answer of it depends. It really does depend on what type of request is being made. So in this case, I mean, obviously, I said we do about 500 devices a year. That doesn't mean I'm looking through all 500 of those. But in this case, we got the data off the phones. It went off to other detectives to review and find whatever evidence they may find. But the reason I say this one took years is as more stuff kept coming out and becoming known to us, it was, hey, can we go back and look at this? Hey, can we go back and look at that? And it really wasn't until probably about April of this year, when they were prepping for the trial to go the first time, that I really got heavily involved in looking at the phones. So I did those extractions in 2022, and it wasn't until this year that I personally really started looking through the data. I helped them along the way, but I mean, it can be anywhere from a couple days to just, let's take an ICAC or Internet Crimes Against Children investigation. If all we're interested in is media, it'll only take as long as it takes somebody to look through the media on a phone to see if it contains any illegal imagery. And if it doesn't, that could be the end of that phone. Maybe we're looking at just one text conversation for an incident that happened. However long it takes you to read that conversation, and then you're done with the phone. In this case, or Matthew Pahl's case, I mean, we had stuff coming up and new information becoming known, and different circumstances were, I don't want to say changing, but we were learning more stuff. And then it's, hey, we need to go back and look at this more, or hey, we need to go here and look at this. So in this case, we looked through those phones. That was one thing defense said that was right, is we put thousands of hours in. And I think that's true. I mean, we really did. I don't know the exact amount of time we put in, but if you totaled the time, probably just between Detective Fredericks, Detective Plennis, and myself, I mean, we probably easily put in over 1,000 hours on this case. With it being circumstantial, we were fully aware that we didn't have, I'll call it the dagger, right? We didn't have that one piece of evidence that was going to and there it is, case closed. We didn't have that. So it was a lot more like analytical work and showing stuff like the voicemails on Miss Pavlon's phone and stuff like that. That's just, it's a weird circumstance. But if you put enough of those weird circumstances together, you start to build a case. And that's what it came down to here, was just, what do we need to do to prove this case? I mean, we all believed that he had something to do with it. It was just, can we prove it, right? Is it what it seems like, right? But I don't think we ever questioned our case, but we didn't know how it would come out in presentation. So
it came out very well, and I hope that you are proud of yourself, that you and your team who worked all these hours, thousands of hours on this case, are very proud of yourself, because we sure are.
I am proud of myself, and I know I've got positive feedback from people around our agency. I know after Attorney Gordon gave her closings, I was present for the closings. I went up there and watched. And when we walked out, I just kind of stopped everybody and said, hey, I just want to say, great job. I think we did the best we could with what we had. And now it's in the jury's hands, right? And obviously, as you know, we didn't have to wait very long. So
the jury has spoken clearly and, quite honestly, rather succinctly. in a case based on circumstantial evidence. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Pahl, that this jury deliberated for less than 1 hour. They walked out of here at 3:20. We keep track of this. And at 4:20, I was told that they had a verdict. The jury deliberated for less than 1 hour and found you guilty on both counts.
In your line of work, what's the most common type of digital evidence that turns a case around, like deleted messages or location data? And can you share a general example of how it plays out?
I'm going to go with it depends again. That depends is going to be the new true.
Yeah.
But it really depends. I think I'd say more so nowadays than ever, location data is probably a large portion of our investigations, whether it be off the physical device or location data from those cell towers that we talked about. I can't say necessarily how it plays out just because every case is different, but our general workflow, we obviously try to get those cell tower locations as fast as possible. Those are ephemeral in the sense that the providers only keep records for X amount of time. So that data does go away. So it's important that we get our hands on it as soon as we can, or as soon as we know we need it. But I mean, I've had cases where they get that data and it's just to prove somebody's alibi, right? And it really can. And that's why I say I feel like I kind of do work for defense where I am, because this data will exonerate people just as fast as it'll implicate them. But I think location data is, in overall criminal investigations, I think location data is the biggest thing that really turns an investigation around. And going back to Matthew Pahl, which is why we're here, right? That's exactly what led us to him very quickly, was the cell tower locations on Miss Pavlon's phone. At that point, we didn't really have anything other than a deceased female in the woods, right? And that location data is what ultimately led us to his apartment and recovered her property, and it kind of all unfolded from there.
What tools or software do you rely on most for pulling data from encrypted devices, and how have advancements in tech made your job harder over the years?
It's definitely getting harder. I mean, we rely on our software that we use, right? So the biggest ones that we use are, cellebrite, which, that comes up in probably every trial you cover. But between cellebrite, Magnet Forensics has good tools. Those tools, it's like a constant cat and mouse game, right? Apple keeps coming out with security patches, and we have to rely on our tools. I'm not a software engineer, so I can't tell you how they're getting into these devices, but we rely on them to catch up and stay up to date on the security patches that are coming out. In terms of encryption, we're seeing more and more things going to end-to-end encryption, right? Meta or Facebook, they just switched over to end-to-end encryption on their messaging platform. It seems like the majority of providers are going that route. For us, the big thing is the physical device then. So if we write warrants to these companies, they claim that they can't read these chats because they're encrypted. But on the physical device locally, all that data is still going to be decrypted, and we're able to read it there. So it's just a matter of being able to get into that device. And that's where I say we rely on our tools to help us get the data off of these devices. And it's kind of a science, right? We talk to our guys about, hey, passwords are important, but our tools are able to bypass those in certain situations. So it's just a matter of we might not get into a device right away, but eventually we will. It's just how long is it going to take? And maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes a couple months. But really, in terms of encryption, every phone nowadays, right, any modern phone has file-based encryption, right? So everything's encrypted. It's just a matter of getting that data off that physical device and being able to read what they have. So, but the apps, Signal, Telegram, now Facebook, Instagram, everything's becoming encrypted. So it's definitely getting harder. In the computer world, right, we have BitLocker encryption now. Windows likes to use BitLocker. Another issue we have, right? And there are law enforcement ways to try to get those keys and recovery keys, which I won't get into here. But we do have, tricks and tools that we can get bypass that encryption if we need to.
And we always love that when you are able to do that, and you can show a trial what you found. What did this person try to hide?
It's extremely rewarding, and I mean, I don't think encryption on itself, implies that anybody's guilty. Just because, I mean, you get a new Windows computer, right? It prompts you to do it. So if you're just a normal computer user, and you're just clicking through the setup, so I don't think encryption necessarily implies any guilt. It's just, it seems like people are concerned about privacy, myself included, right?
Yeah.
But that's the way the world's going, and people are concerned that the government's spying on them. And maybe that's true if you're up to, no good. But I swear we're not targeting innocent people, and we're just trying to do our job. And if we have a crime that leads us to some person, we're going to do everything we can to get what we need to see if that's the case, right?
Yes, my husband is actually a software engineer, and he's always trying to make sure, that I stay safe online, keep the passwords, everything, because it's less about the government or Google listening to you and more about like hackers. There's like hackers and people, that want to prey on innocent people. That's also a
absolutely.
huge issue today.
And they're really good at what they do. I mean, there's some hackers out there that I don't even know how they do it. I mean, I just ordered a new credit card, and before I even used it, I had an unauthorized charge on it. And it's like, how?
Yeah.
I haven't even used my own card yet. And here I get somebody
Wow.
spending on it. So the hackers out there are really good. I'm going to throw my mom under the bus right now, but, I deal with her all the time because she loves to click, random links that come in through her stuff. And she's like, is this legit? No, of course not. Like, you got a random text about an Amazon package that you didn't order. It's not legit.
But so many people, are victim to things like that. So I'm actually glad you could say that, and that your mom can rely on you as well. Is this safe? No. Don't click on that. Did you order that? No.
It's probably weekly that I get a text from my mom, hey, is this legit? Please don't click on that link.
Right. I'm sure she's very proud of your line of work as well, and we'll find it
She
very
does.
useful.
She watches all of this, so I'm sure she watches all my testimony, and yeah, she loves it. So.
If she's watching this now, hello. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi, Mom.
You're a grizzly. Yeah.
Right.
So have you ever encountered a gotcha moment during an analysis where something unexpected popped up on a device that changed the whole investigation? So if you don't want to, without specifics, what makes those moments exciting? I just wish I was a fly on the wall when you find that. It's like,
We got a laptop bag, right? Just a laptop case that was found at a hotel or left behind at a hotel. And in there were a bunch of cameras and SD cards, micro SD cards. So it was brought to me simply as abandoned property. Hey, can you try to figure out who owns this, right? Like, it was I don't want to say just another day, but it was just hey, this was left behind. It looks expensive. Can we figure out who owns this so we can return it to them? And in the process of looking through some of this stuff, we found a sexual assault of a female on these SD cards that ended up being like 9 years old at the time. Not the female wasn't 9 years old, but the date of the incident was like 9 years prior to us getting this bag in. So we had stopped and acquired a warrant to keep looking through this stuff and try to find more evidence of this sexual assault. And it turned out, yeah, we ended up identifying the female. She still lived in our jurisdiction. We identified her. It went all the way through a jury trial. And the suspect was found guilty on, I think, like 28 or 30 felony counts, where looking back, it was like, how the heck did we, this came in as abandoned property. We were just trying to figure out the owner, and it turned into a guy being found guilty on, I want to say it was at least more than 25 felony charges. And it's like, wow, like sometimes you have no idea. I know just recently we did a Internet Crimes Against Children search warrant where we had our suspect identified. We went to his house. And in the process of that, we learned he had a roommate. So the roommate was nice enough to say, yeah, you can look through my phone, rule me out, whatever. And my partner was looking through his phone, and the roommate had illegal material on his phone as well. So we ended up arresting them both. But you really have no idea what you're getting into. I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff on people's devices that there's probably, I use this saying a lot, but there's not enough bleach in the world to fix my eyeballs. I've seen a lot of weird stuff, a lot of crazy stuff, but you would never know what people have on their phones. But yeah, in terms of a gotcha moment, I don't have a specific example for you. I mean, every now and then we find good stuff, and it just, I don't have a specific example for you though.
To us, the gotcha for the Matthew Pahl trial was, man, as you said, the location and then those Google searches. It was like, oh, I could have just imagined you extracting the data and being like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I mean, like, right, like dad's computer in the Matthew Pahl trial, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a gotcha moment, but I remember when our detectives were talking to him, and we weren't really sure what he knew. And yeah, when we got into his computer and you start seeing that stuff, and I think the biggest, I don't want to say the biggest piece, there were so many different pieces here, but was how early the searches were beginning, right? Even on Matthew's device. It was just like nobody in the world knew that she was out there, right? Like nobody, we didn't know, her parents didn't know, Layla didn't know, but he knew. Right. I mean, there was like 3 days. I think it was the first obituary search on his phone was August 26th. And it's like, okay, man, like, you know, something, right? Like, so I think that's where it was a big moment for us, was just like how early the searches were being done on their devices where nobody else would have known what was going on.
Definitely. That was also, for us, just watching that was the gotcha. Like, my goodness, nobody else knew. And I wonder who he thought is going to be writing this obituary. Like, what did he think? You know, because she lived with him mostly. It was just so weird. His searches were so strange. Like, did you think it's just magically going to pop up?
Right. Yeah. And
oh my goodness.
I mean, I really do think like that was a big piece of our case, was when nobody else knew what was going on or that she was even missing. All of this stuff is happening on his device, right?
Also, with the dad's laptop, do you think he was using his dad's laptop to conduct those searches, or was the dad doing that?
I think dad. The only one I couldn't be certain on would be September 9th, when Matthew's at dad's house, according to cell records. Those ones I don't know. But the initial where they start on dad's computer, those started after a phone call between him and Matthew, where we have no reason to believe that dad was at his house. I mean, we watched hundreds of hours of apartment video. So those first ones on dad's laptop, I mean, we know that Matthew's near his residence, makes a call out to dad. That following morning, Matthew's still by his apartment, and the searches are beginning on dad's computer. So again, we don't know what's being said on phone conversations. I know Attorney Gordon, when she was questioning me, kind of asked a question along those lines, is, you know, why do people choose to use phone calls rather than text? Well, we can't listen to your phone call, right? Why don't you want to put it in text? Well, because we can read that, right? And he knows that someday somebody's going to read this. Where a phone call, we don't ever know what's being said on those calls. I have a good indication, right? If what's being said on that call, if the following morning dad starts searching stuff, right? There was something discussed on that phone call, but we can't tell you exactly what was said.
Right. Unless somebody's being wiretapped, but at that point, obviously they weren't.
Yeah, right. And I can tell you we did not do any of that in this case. So.
Yeah, right. So a lingering question as well, based on what you said earlier, I know the Grizzlies will want me to ask this. Okay. They're going to say, how do you cope with all these things that you find on phones, you know, especially crimes against children and all this horrific evidence you find? Like, how do you? There isn't enough bleach in the world. But how do you mentally cope with that? And do they provide any resources to help you cope with that or not?
Yeah, I think everybody handles it differently. In terms of resources that we're offered, we're mandated to go to a psychiatrist twice a year. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's what our employer requires in order for us to keep doing what we're doing. So we have to go, and they evaluate us to make sure that we're mentally doing all right. And then they offer us, it's called First Responder Psych Services. County pays for it. We're able to go as often as we want. So you can go talk to these people. It's completely anonymous, and just vent your frustrations or life or whatever it may be. For me personally, without going into great detail, I have 2 young daughters. I have a 1.5-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. So I still take a lot of gratitude in what I do. Do I like looking at what I have to look at? No. And I'm going towards the child crimes here, right? But it's hard to watch. I set myself boundaries for what I do, and that's you learn as you go. But I don't listen with audio anymore. I never have the audio on my computer unless I have to, or I have an indication that there's something I need to listen to, but my audio is always off. And at the end of the day, it's like any arrest I make on a child crime case is somebody that could assault my children. So I still feel like I have that reward at the end for doing what I'm doing. And if I lose that, maybe that's my time that I know it's time to be done doing what I do. But for now, I think that reward at the end of the tunnel is enough for me to, somebody has to do it, right? And if it's not me, it's somebody else. And I mean, at our agency, we have, I think, about 8 detectives that work these cases. So I have other people that I can talk to. But I mean, I remember one case that we couldn't extract the data. It wasn't an encrypted app, but we were in the guy's computer. So at that point, we had to take like a manual video of evidence off his computer. And the detective that was with me, I remember she like broke down in tears while we were recording it. So it affects everybody differently. Try to separate it from your personal life, and do the best you can, and just be aware of where your mind's at. And yeah, like I said, if I lose that reward, or I don't feel as satisfied as I do, that'd probably be my sign that I should be done doing what I do for work.
Yeah, that must be so difficult. I'm hoping that with the way that AI is going, that eventually AI could help to identify, that sort of content, even, on social media platforms, you see it sometimes, so that they can be eliminated quickly.
Yes. And I mean, AI is definitely helping. I mean, our tools will go through, we use hash sets a lot. I don't know if I need to get into the science behind them, but we do use hash databases a lot to help quickly identify illegal material. So, I mean, you might have 1 million images on a computer. We can run a hash set across it, and maybe it picks out 300 and it says, hey, we know these are illegal files. But at the end of the day, in order to charge somebody with that, we still go through, where I live here, we cap typically are charging at 10 counts, for that stuff. But that still requires a detective to sit there and watch 10 files and depict them in narrative, right? And write out what they're seeing. So in order to charge these guys, somebody has to watch it, and write up a narrative description of what they're seeing. As much as AI can help, at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to look at some of it to charge it.
Yes, I just hope it reduces the human impact. You know what I mean? AI, you do your look first and write up a narrative. Sure, that must be difficult work.
And you're seeing that a lot with like the tech companies, right? So your Snapchats, your Googles, right? Like they're using AI to detect this stuff, and they're not government. So they don't have a human always review that media, right? They trust their AI, and they report it just based on their AI findings rather than having a human look at and verify it. We're a little different in the criminal world, right? We have to verify it.
Yes.
You are seeing AI helping the world in general on that scope. So.
Yeah, we just hear so many cases where people, use Discord and Roblox and all of these types of things to target children, and I feel like they should implement a bit of AI to help out with that, reduce the amount of traffic with that.
No, there's good uses for AI. So, I mean, that would be one of them, I would say.
Yes. To me, that would be top. Okay, now we're going off on a tangent. I'll get back to the questions I had for you. Sorry about that. Now, in your testimony at the Matthew Pahl trial, you had detailed his suspicious web searches, like we just talked about those with obituaries, exact details of a body found by construction crew. So how did you first uncover those, and what made them stand out as key evidence in building this case against him?
your phones obviously store a lot of information, a lot more than the user can see, right? I don't know exactly how. So this case started with Detective Plennis and Detective Fredericks looking through the phone. So I mean, I guess I can't tell you where exactly they started. For me, a lot of the times when I look through a device, we have typically a time frame that we're interested in, right? So I'd be speculating a little bit, but in this case, by the time we got our hands on his phone, we had already honed in on the date of August 23rd, 2022. So I think if I were doing this, that's where I'm going to start, right? Like what's happening on the devices on that day. And we learned that there really wasn't a lot going on the physical devices that day. There really wasn't. There was that text exchange in the morning with the ICU chat. And then there's some outgoing calls on her phone after the fact. But that's kind of where you start, right? So I'm sure, and again, I'm speculating a little bit, but I'm sure they started there and started moving forward and encountered those web searches on his device beginning August 23rd or August 26th. And I've been questioned before on the stand about people altering evidence in their phones, or maybe it's a text message or a web search, and well, how do we know this wasn't changed or modified or edited? Or the phone's storing that information in what's called a SQLite database. I testified a little bit to it regarding Ms. Pavlon's missing messages or deleted messages, but it would take, if it's even possible, take an extremely sophisticated user to gain access to those databases on a phone and change anything. So I don't think I ever questioned the validity of the searches he made. I'm very fair in the way I displayed evidence, and I know Attorney Gordon questioned me on it. And that was, we saw way more searches than what we presented in the courtroom. And the reason being, and I did see one comment on your channel and it kind of made me laugh. Okay, so Karen Reed, I mean, they had a lot of questions on open tabs and internet searches. And somebody had commented in there, oh, this detective has trauma from the Karen Reed trial. And I do. I mean, it was definitely in my mind. I watched Ian Whiffen testify in the Karen Reed trial. And I'm going to admit, I mean, Ian Whiffen knows way more than I do in this avenue, and I've reached out to him before with questions. So, but I thought it was best for us to only present unique searches on Matthew Pahl's device. So we saw a lot of repetitive searching, but it's sometimes hard to determine if that's maybe an open tab on his phone that's replicating that search over and over. So we had decided to just present only unique web searches, and in my opinion, and maybe your channel agrees, but there were still a lot of web searches being made regarding what had happened. So to me, it wasn't, hey, we need to include all this to really get our point across, right? We had enough unique searches that I still think it looked really interesting, and a lot of specific details that hadn't even been released yet were being searched. So that's kind of where we were at. And I don't think there's any question about were they legit or were they just coincidental, right? Like, is he just happen to be searching this today because somebody else in his family died? No, like, there was no evidence of anybody else being searched. It was specific to Ms. Pavlon's, and the time frame of when those were happening, I think, was, in our eyes, a damning piece of evidence.
Definitely, in our eyes too. When we saw you present that, we're like, that's damning evidence there.
Right, and I mean, and again, that's why I go back and watch your stuff, right? Because my eyes as law enforcement might be different than your eyes as a normal citizen watching this from the outside, right? So I think that's good, but it's good to hear that you guys agreed that our thought process was right, and it was what it looked like. I mean, it looked damning.
Right, and some of these other searches you didn't include, would it still be in line of looking up obituaries and dead body found by construction crew, coroners, inquests? Is it along those lines, or was there something else?
Yeah, a lot of them are repetitive of what we discussed in testimony. It was just a lot more days than we presented on. Like, it was consecutive days that these searches were appearing to have happened. But again, when you're looking, I mean, there's so much data in the phones. In a lot of those searches, I was seeing like Google tab activity. And as your viewer said, I have trauma from the Karen Reed trial in terms of open tabs. I didn't have enough knowledge on the open tab topic that I was comfortable testifying on it. So we came up with, hey, let's only present the unique searches that he made. And when we broke it down and looked at just the unique ones, there were still so many of them that were like, this is enough. I mean, we have what we need.
So in his trial, how did integrating the surveillance video with the digital data from the phones strengthen the prosecution's case? And what was your role in piecing all of that together?
Yeah, I mean, I think the surveillance, so we had a lot of people watch surveillance video. In total, I think we took over like 2 terabytes of data from that apartment complex. But I was the one that initially got the video from the Willow Park Apartments. I'm trying to think of the exact order. So the first thing we had was after we identified Miss Pavlon's, we got her call detail records. So we knew once we got those records that, you know, her device, and again, I presented on both of their devices, but at the time, I only had her device. So we had saw the device leave the Willow Park Apartments, travel up towards Quick Trip, ultimately over to OAW, and then return back to 1001 Delafield. And that was about, generally speaking, that's where the device stopped moving. You know, and obviously later on it does move again. But that was kind of where the device stopped moving for an extended period of time. So I think, and I know you've probably read the affidavit more than I have, but that initial search warrant to go get more stuff, we used her cell records to get the video from the apartment complex. We went there, we started reviewing the video, pulled a lot of data, and we didn't see her after August 23rd. So we saw her leave. At this point, we knew her device came back. We never see her come back. That led us to a search warrant at the Willow Park Apartments. Then we start getting into Matthew's records, etc. And I don't know how many. I mean, I know at one point I had 3 different deputies in my lab watching video surveillance from the apartment complex. It was motion activated cameras in that building. There's a lot of people in that building, and a lot of people had smoked cigarettes apparently. So there was a lot of video to watch because people were constantly in and out of that building. But there were 7 different cameras in there. It covered every entrance or exit to that building. So it was just a matter of having somebody physically sit there and go through and document every time he left, every time he came back, that we never saw her again. And I think when we started to put it all together, it looked really good for the state's case. I mean, having the cell records, I think I identified 3 times where, and I don't think we showed it all in the courtroom testimony, but the 3 times that her device left after the 23rd, we had video of him walking out at about the same time. So it's like piecing all of that together and being able to piece it all together is phenomenal, because I know Attorney Gordon really, she asked me a question about, you know, who deleted these messages on Miss Pavlon's phone. And I knew she wanted me to say Matthew Pahl, but she knows me pretty well, and I'm not going to say that. I can almost sense her frustration when she asked me, and I said, I don't know who deleted them. At the end of the day, I think we presented enough evidence to show who had her device and who deleted them. But in my line of work, I didn't see him on her phone deleting these messages. Therefore, I'm not going to say it, right? And she knew that. She was hoping that I would say it. But I think for me, I try to be as fair as possible, right? And then we painted the picture for the jury very well. that they drew the conclusion that Matthew Pahl was deleting all this. And truly, I don't think there's any other person that deleted this stuff from her phone. So if she would have asked me a little different question, I maybe would have gave that answer. But in terms of having that video and being able to piece everything together, I think it was crucial. And it took a long time. We actually ended up going back to the apartment complex, and I forget the lady's name, but I had asked her, I'm like, do you mind if we take your DVR? I'll try to get it back tomorrow. But we actually physically removed the digital video recording system from their apartment complex for like 24 hours. And we took that to our state lab and had them extract all the video off of it. Because if I were to sit there and do it physically, I mean, I would have been there for weeks. So it was nice to have them help us. I don't want to say help, but, cooperate with us taking that DVR. And at the end of the day, I think it really helped us prove that he was in possession of her device, and he was the one traveling with it, using it. So, yeah.
Yes, I mean, also with the surveillance footage and pairing it with all the location data, that was very good. Now, they showed us at some point through the glass doors, Matthew Pahl's truck, leaving that day and all of that. But why was there no footage? This came up often in the trial, like of his nighttime activities, because we all started wondering, did he go back to where he'd left her body? Did he go back there that night? And there was no nighttime surveillance. So did you actually have that footage, or did the cameras not capture nighttime surveillance footage?
Yeah, no, we had all the footage. And this didn't come up in testimony. One of the first queries I did when I mapped his cell phone records was to see if he ever went to OAW in what I'll call hours of darkness. So I had searched his records. I don't remember the exact query, but we'll say it was like 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. He never went there at night. So when we were trying to develop like what our theory was, like what we believed happened, we knew he didn't. I shouldn't say. We knew his device never went there at night, right?
Yes.
Obviously, we're tracking a device, so could he have went out one night without his phone? I mean, it's possible, but I mean, we had watched all the video, and to my recollection, there was never a time where he left in the middle of the night that concerned us. So, I mean, the evidence is what the evidence is. We didn't believe that he ever went there at night, and I think all that really did for us was play into that. Well, what is our theory then? Is this possible? Could he have done this in daylight? Did she go out there on her own? That's where we're trying to figure that out. So that's a really good question, but it obviously didn't come up in the trial because, quite frankly, his device never went there in the middle of the night. But yeah, I mean, I think we had the same thought you guys all had. If he did this, he probably went back out there in the middle of the night to do whatever he did. But that changed, and that didn't play into the state's theory of what happened.
Yes, I'm glad they shared their theory. We were first watching the state's rebuttal and the closing arguments and being like, whoa, we haven't seen this often. But I think it paid off in sharing the theory of what happened, because it makes sense based on, as you say, all the data. The data doesn't lie. So all of that pieced together makes sense that that's what happened that day.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I didn't even know what Attorney Gordon was going to say in that closing. I'm not an attorney. I don't know their trial strategy the greatest. But yeah, I thought that was a great presentation, and I entirely believe that the theory she gave is possible. And I think that's one of the hard parts in these circumstantial cases, is what is possible, right? We don't necessarily need to prove what exactly happened, but it's what's possible. And I don't know what all the pretrial stuff was or whatever, but I mean, I remember defense asking their doctor, or maybe even the state doctor, so is possible? Is overdose possible? Whatever. And I was kind of hoping Attorney Opera would come back on her, redirect, and the first question would be, is homicide possible? Because the answer would have been yes, right? Like anything was possible, medically speaking, right? Like we didn't know. They're right. We didn't know. And if they would have asked me on the stand, how did Ms. Pavlins die? I don't know, right? But the circumstances were there, and nobody will ever know, medically speaking, how she died. But I thought Attorney Gordon's presentation on her final closing was very well said and absolutely possible, and it all makes sense, right? Like if that theory did happen, we heard the canine. I watched your premiere with the canine handler, but that's entirely possible that purse goes into the bed of the truck, and that's just enough for the dog to hit, and it all makes sense. So
it makes sense, and it's good to know for those of us who still had it in the back of our mind. What about nighttime that you checked? Of course you did, but it's good to hear it, that you checked all the nighttime data, location data. Did he go there in the middle of the night? It's good to know you didn't find any evidence of that.
Correct. And and we even went, above that. I checked the cell records first. There were a lot of other records that we got. We got records from Google. We got records from Ms. Pavlon's Google accounts. And we look at all that location data. And to my knowledge, we looked at all of that, and there was no indication that he was ever out there in the middle of the night.
So in digital forensics, what's the biggest myth that people believe about recovering deleted data, like it's gone forever? And how do you debunk that in court?
Deleted data is getting harder and harder to recover. I don't think that's any secret. Between solid state drives taking over the world with how data is being stored, and phones using flash memory, the drive themselves, when something's deleted, it's working quickly to, I guess, rewrite that deleted area. But file-based encryption is there now. So on a modern phone, we're not able to even get a physical image of that memory chip. So we're not able even to see the unallocated space on a phone. But what people don't know is the SQLite databases, right? And we saw it a little bit in the Pahl trial, is that's how your phone's storing data. And when the user deletes something, it's not necessarily truly deleted yet, right? That database is marking it for deletion. It doesn't present that information to the user anymore. But forensically speaking, when we get that extraction of data and we look at the database, we can still recover some of that information. It's not always entirely possible. It came up in terms of like her deleted messages in the Matthew Pahl case. There were like 800, 900 messages deleted, and as an analyst, like I can't tell you what those messages said, short of having context somewhere else. Some of them were still in his phone, so we were able to kind of piece some of that back together. But the hard part is his phone had a lot more deleted information, but it was more sporadic, right? It wasn't like those large gaps that were deleted. And when it's the sporadic gaps like that, it's hard to tell what exactly was deleted. Could he have been framing their conversation to look, I don't know, maybe more than what it actually was? He could have been. It's hard to tell. So yeah, in terms of deleted information, it's getting much more difficult for us to recover that. But I mean, a lot of people, they delete stuff and it sits in a recycling bin or the recently deleted folder, and it stays there for 30 days or whatever it is. We're able to see all of that. So we do the best we can, but it is definitely getting harder to recover deleted information.
Well, we do love those cases where they think, that they've deleted things so cleverly and then you find everything.
Right. And I mean, we use other stuff, right? Like the cell records helped in this case because, again, now I'm looking at her database. I can see there's 800, 900 deleted messages. Her phone was rather new. I think she got that phone in like March of that year. So the database wasn't very large. And you were still seeing a huge chunk, like out of, I think it was around 1,000 messages total sent from that device or received on that device, and 900 of them were gone. So then I can go to her call detail record and kind of look at what transactions have occurred on her device. And the majority of her conversations, a large majority of her conversations, were with Matthew Pahl's device. So it's like, I can't put a true number on it. And I don't think it came up in testimony. But it's like a large portion of that deleted content on her phone was chats between her and Matt. And I can't give you an exact number, but it didn't come up. And we try to build as best picture as we can, but at the end of the day, I can't tell you exactly what those messages said.
So with AI and deep fakes becoming more common, how are you adapting your forensics techniques to detect manipulated media, and what's a real world challenge where you face that?
So again, we're relying on our tools. There are ways to detect deep fakes or AI created media. Knock on wood, I haven't seen a ton of it come through our lab. We have one case right now that's extremely bizarre, but it is AI generated child material. I don't know where it will go, but that's probably the biggest case by us that I've seen the AI coming through. We had another case that involved AI where they were, I guess, stripping clothing from the person, so it was a normal picture of somebody and they had removed the clothing with AI. But there are tools out there that are starting to automate that process to detect different changes to the data structures and detect if it appears a video or image was modified from its normal state. But again, knock on wood, hopefully it stays away from Waukesha County because it is tough. I know I just started playing with AI on my phone to create videos of myself, and they're pretty darn realistic. And I have a free version, right? So I can only imagine the paid tools out there for AI that are making this stuff. And I see them all over the internet, videos of different people that I don't believe they're real. But it's definitely a challenge. And another challenge we face is like the laws keeping up with that.
Yes.
If it's an adult person and I use AI to take their clothing off, is that illegal? It's a quote unquote a fake picture now, right? So it's having laws keep up with privacy, not privacy in that sense, but like intimate privacy, right? Like, are there laws that even make that illegal for me to have? So I mean, we just got the statute in our state or an act that made possessing that stuff illegal, at least for children.
Yeah.
Because for a while we didn't even have a law that if we detected an AI generated image of a child, we didn't even have a law really to act on. So getting laws to catch up and the legal system to catch up to what we're seeing in technology is definitely tough. And that's with all sorts of different stuff regarding digital forensics and technology as a whole, because the stuff is changing faster than we can keep up. So just a matter of time, I guess, but we'll see where it goes.
Here's a question we all had. Okay, so we learned that Matthew Pahl had some dash cam from August 23rd of 2025, the last day that Stephanie Pavlons was seen alive. But it appeared that he either deleted the rest of the dash cam footage, like going to the Quick Trip and OAW, or he turned off his dash cam. Similarly, there was nothing from September 9th of 2022. So what can you tell us about the findings related to this? Did he delete it? Did he turn it off? What was that about?
So I don't have any indication that any dash cam video was deleted. There's a couple of different situations. I don't believe it was deleted. I can get into the details a little bit about that, but he could have turned it off. He could have unplugged it. He could have done any number of things. I don't remember specifics, so I won't really go into them, but I know there was another night of interest, I'll call it, that was brought up where we had reason to believe there might have been something going on. And that night as well, the dash cam it turns off in the middle of a trip. We didn't present anything on that because it would be another act. It wasn't anything to do with Miss Pavlons. But we were trying to figure out, was this a pattern that if he's up to nefarious activities that the dash cam magically doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
But so I'm the one that actually imaged and analyzed the SD card from the dash cam. And I know they were harping on me to please find something deleted. Please, there's something deleted here. And truly, I don't believe anything from the dash cam was deleted. The reason being is the way that dash cam was set up. Obviously, the timestamps were 13 hours off, which that was an issue on itself. But the records had, at the very end of each file name on the dash cam was an underscore and then a sequential file name. So I didn't see any gaps in the sequence of those, the videos that were recovered. And Marvin Pahl actually plugged that SD card into his MacBook.
Oh.
And he transferred all that video off to his desktop on his MacBook before we had our hands on it. When he plugged the chip into, or that SD card into his MacBook, the Mac operating system creates its own metadata files to, I guess, track information within the file system. And those are hidden to the user, but they were all identical matches to the SD card that we recovered. So I don't personally believe that anything was physically deleted from the SD card. But I do believe either it was unplugged or turned off or something happened. I'm not sure why, but it's weird. That was the beginning of their day, right? You see him drive into Moreland Medical and she gets in the truck. And then there's nothing, where even like the drive on September 9th, when he leaves OAW and drives up to his dad's house, it's like a 45-minute trip from here. We have the whole drive, right?
Oh.
Like, so it was clearly capable of recording his entire drive like a dash cam would. So I guess my conclusion is he either turned it off, unplugged it, or something happened, but I don't believe he physically went in and deleted any information from that dash cam.
Interesting. But even that is pretty dodgy of him, right? The times he's maybe then intentionally turning the dash cam off or unplugging it or whatever he's doing is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't really know where the defense was going. But like, they asked me, like, a hypothetical question of, if he threw devices in a river and you never found them, like, would that make it harder? Or would you know that he did that or whatever? I'm like, well, of course not. Like, if I don't recover a device from a lake, like, I don't know what I don't know. Like, I don't know if he did that. Like, maybe he did hide stuff, right? Maybe there's more evidence out there that we didn't find. I don't know. And I don't know how I would know. But no, I didn't see anything in terms of the dash cam that, like, he physically deleted. Obviously, I believe, and I think we presented on that, we believe that he deleted a lot of stuff from Miss Pavlon's phone. I was a little mad at myself. They asked me a question. It was during Attorney Gordon's direct. She had asked me about the deleted content on her phone in terms of messaging. When we went back over to Cross, I'll give Pablo credit. He asked me a question regarding there's other ways to communicate, right? They use Skype, Facebook Messenger, etc. And I'm really mad at myself because after that, I went back to my lab and I looked at her phone. All of that stuff was deleted from her phone as well.
Oh, man.
So,
okay.
And apparently, I told Attorney Gordon, apparently they knew that. And I didn't know that in my head on the stand there. But I think that's even more damning, right?
Like,
you're right, Pablo. There are other ways to communicate, and those were all deleted as well.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, a lot of stuff was taken off of her phone. And that does present challenges, but it's also good circumstantial evidence.
How does it feel to know that your work contributed to some of the strongest circumstantial evidence in the case, which helped to get justice for Stephanie Pavlons and her family?
It feels good. I mean, I do this work because I love it, right? I mean, I try to be as fair as possible, right? I do my work, I report facts, and I let other people draw conclusions based on those facts. I'm pretty humble in the sense of, I don't know if my work in this case did any more than, Detective Plennis or Detective Fredericks, right? There were a lot of good pieces of this investigation. And I think a lot of credit goes to the attorneys as well. They put in a ton of time preparing and presenting on this. And I think it showed, right? If you watch their presentation compared to, let's say, the defense's presentation, I think it showed very well that the state was very prepared for this case. So while it does feel good, I'm just doing my job. It's what I do, right? So I like finding facts. I like reporting on those facts and then letting other people draw their conclusions. In the back of my mind, I know what I believe happened, and it's nice to see some of the comments coming through of, oh, like the writing's on the wall, right? Like this is what happened. And so it is rewarding in that sense. But at the end of the day, right, I don't get paid more or anything for a guilty verdict. And it is what it is. I try not to take anything with me. So while it does feel good that the jury came back guilty. I don't think I would have taken any hard feelings with me had they came back not guilty. We built the best case we could with the evidence we had. And that's what I told them when we left the courtroom that day is, hey, we did the best we could with what we had, right? We can't say what a jury is going to say or make up their mind for them. So at the end of the day, we did the best we could. And I try to do that on every case that I have, right? I just do the best I can with what I'm working with. And if it goes our way, great. If it doesn't, and they're truly a bad person, I'm a firm believer that we'll see them again. And maybe the next time we'll get them better.
Yes, and imagine a world without that evidence. In a case like this, I mean, there would be just about no way to prove it, right? So it's just such important work. I'm so glad that you exist and that your line of work exists and technology has caught up to catch these kind of criminals.
Yeah, and that goes to show, I think, just our team in general. I think it was Detective Plennis filed the warrants initially on Miss Pavlon's call detail records. But like that, in my opinion, that is a crucial piece of this case, right? If we didn't get those timing advance records, if we only had her 2 calls or the text, her device doesn't appear to ever leave 1001 Delafield with a basic call detail record, right? So I think it deserves a lot of credit that the people that needed to moved at the appropriate speed in this case and obtained a lot of the data that we needed to move forward. Because if we would have waited, or if Detective Plennis would have waited and then not filed those warrants timely and got those served on T-Mobile, it would have been very possible that we would have got the records back and it never even would have looked like she left the house. So a lot of good moving pieces by everybody in this case. And towards the end, a lot of good work by our attorneys to put everything together and prepare and present the way they did. Because I'm sure your viewership will agree that the state's presentation looked a lot more professional and a lot more prepared than maybe the defense's.
Yes, and I mean, Sue Opper is a legend as well. She came out
she
of
retired
retirement
too
for this.
early.
That was amazing. Yes.
She retired too early, and I'm sure she'll see this someday. And she's going to hear me say that, but she retired too early. I'm going to miss working with her a lot.
And we're all going to miss seeing her as well. We've seen her in a few trials, and we will miss her too. She does watch this. You were part of the team that tracked down that he actually left the country, right, and came back.
So again, not directly related to that team, but I was made aware, and I don't know how that exactly played out. I think Detective Fredericks maybe testified to it. Yeah, we were supposed to be notified if he booked any international flights, and it didn't work out that way. I'm not sure what happened. We weren't notified until he flew back into the country. So actually, we had no idea that he was gone. And I forgot, I think there was a question where they said, well, you were watching him, weren't you? And it's like, no, we weren't sitting watching him 24/7 for 2 years. Like we had other stuff going on. But I don't know exactly how that played out, but I do know that it didn't go the way we had intended. Because we were working on still building a case. We had a good case. I mean, we did. We had a good case. But we really wanted to make sure we had all our ducks in a row before he was charged. And we'd like to be notified if he was going to leave the country. And obviously, thankfully, he came back. But yeah, we had no idea that he was gone.
That's the lingering question that everybody had. Why did he come back? Is it just visa? Like, why on earth did he come back?
It could have been. I don't know too much about the international visas, but it seems like he was gone exactly 90 days. And I know my wife watches that 90-Day Fiance show, so maybe he didn't get his stuff worked out and he got forced back for whatever reason. But it seemed like he was there about 90 days and he came back. So I don't know if that's a significant time frame or why. But
okay. Yeah, we were just all still wondering what on earth was that about, because it's pretty dumb of him. He was looking for non-extradition countries, doing all of that. And there was a note found in his apartment. And so we were wondering, okay, so you made it out. Why'd you come back? And I'm so glad he did.
Yeah. And we didn't find that note in his apartment until we officially arrested him. So I think that note was found on the second search warrant of his place, which would have been in 2023 after he returned. So I think it still showed that he was planning to eventually leave the country for good. But I think we found that after he had already gone to the Philippines, came back, and then we ultimately arrest him, do another search warrant on his apartment, and that's when we had found that note of the list. So he still seemed to be preparing to leave the country for good.
Yes, well, thank you so much for joining us here at Grizzly True Crime. This was a fascinating interview, and I'm so honored that you were here with us today.
Well, thanks again for having me. Hopefully you learned something. And I'll definitely be, I'll be in your channel when I can, and I'll be reviewing comments. So I haven't finished the Matthew Pahl trial yet, but as I get through it, just know that I am reading all your comments and listening to what you guys have to say so that I can learn and get better at what I do.
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.